I started teaching in 1970 and I was barely age 21, and I didn't retire until age 53, and I had about 33 years of teaching. I kind of bought out the last 2 years, couldn't survive any longer. And I did art, elementary, classroom, and I was certified as computer, but I didn't get the job, or I probably would still be teaching. Throughout my career, I witnessed all the waste and corruption and fraud, many teaching fads and government interference that prevented me from doing my job in the most efficient, ethical, and effective way. By the 1990s, I really knew something was very wrong, but I wasn't quite sure what. I kept my eyes and ears open and kept reading everything I could as the internet became more usable. I kept finding things that helped explain away my experiences until something happened that finally allowed me to make the complete connection. When school reform was passed in Massachusetts, we were required to reapply for our jobs because we lost our tenure status due to new laws. I was asked to sign a statement, and a lot of people will call me a liar, but I have witnesses, that promised I would pledge to teach the mission of world government. And even though the public education had always been tainted with a political bias, I finally was able to connect this political agenda directly to the UN. And now I knew why every other word in our retraining was global, global, global. The other teachers didn't understand it. I tried to explain to them they should not sign any such document. I've come to realize that it is outside corporations, foundations, and their consultants working with the federal and state government, and some working directly with UNESCO and the World Bank, that are responsible for the changes that had been slowly happening and finally taking root in the schools. And as someone else mentioned, the only reason this didn't happen sooner is teachers are really basically good people. We don't go to work, into the profession expecting to do nasty things to children. We just, a lot of times in my generation, our parents said, you know, this is the good place for a talented person to be because you do music, you do art, you can read, you can write, you do well, and that would be a good, well-rounded thing for you to do for the kids. So in my last few years of teaching, I was targeted for removal with a lot of other people because I openly demonstrated that I wouldn't go along with these new order of fads and fought the change agents every inch of the way. But there was no longer any academic freedom, and we were watched over and treated with a lot of suspicion. So I felt like I had to sneak around to be able to teach phonics, spelling, and actually teach kids something. I remember as a child myself sitting there thinking, when is this teacher going to teach me something? Most recently, I have studied and advocated against a UN program known as the International Baccalaureate. It's a program based in Geneva, Switzerland, created by a group that is an NGO of UNESCO that school boards actually buy, and it's under Swiss jurisdiction. The program actually has, as one of its few requirements, other than the money paid to them, that the students promote UNESCO's political agenda as part of their daily learning. And I'm not talking about, you know, one community service project that you might do, which is nothing wrong with teaching kids to be charitable and, you know, do something for the community. But this is every single day, UNESCO's worldview must be embedded into every subject. In addition, UN values are charted and checked every 2 weeks, and I have seen the charts. You know, you're a risk taker, you're a global thinker, and, you know, different ones that you can see. You can look those up on the web. And every 2 weeks, the children are checked for these attitudes, and they have to write about, you know, am I a risk taker? Am I this? Am I that? Primary children, for their final year presentations, will make presentations that are not really academic or scientific in nature, but they're purely political propaganda, meant to recruit support and sympathy for UNESCO's Millennium Development Goals. For example, on one of the websites that I'm going to give you at the bottom of this, you can see the primary years program kids do they call it their exhibition. Instead of the science of something, for example, they don't study how tornadoes come about or the weather. They don't study the science of how to cure malaria. It's all about the social aspect of it. You know, it's bullying, the homeless, people how to react after disasters. I mean, some of those things you will discuss, but the academic part of it, I think they had one called something about malaria mosquito nets, but it's not about learning how to be doctors so we can cure malaria and help people. It's how to get more money for the UN so they can ship the money over to some country where it gets lost and the people don't get the mosquito nets, because we know how that works. So I've been talking with everyone here. I'm very honored that Charlotte invited me. I met Charlotte in 2009 in a lovely place in Agunquit. We met and had lunch. And I started a group that was a lot of people, education activists. We have some that concentrate on the standards and all of those details. I'm more of a general person that I can tell you how it relates to what my experience was in school. If you say, well, they did this or they did that, and what did this make you do in school, I can pretty much answer those questions. The methods we were asked to do, what went on during terrible training sessions, we were forced to endure. I was just telling someone how the facilitator picked me out, and she immediately stopped the training, and she had us pair up into pairs, and of course she picked me, and she was this far from my nose, and we were supposed to give stream of conscience, and I said, why are we doing this? And I was brought up on charges for it because the other teachers tattled on me. It's a gulag mentality. They tie you together, one falls down, the rest of them don't want to get blamed, so they will tattle on you. And even the union president sat next to me at my inquisition and said, this is a little bit Orwellian that a teacher can't say during a training session, can I ask what is the purpose of this exercise? Why are we doing this? We're supposed to be learning how to improve reading skills, but all the psychological stuff was done on teachers. I just felt like something I had read about in Cuba, when you're watched and principal will be peeking in your window, like he could tell. You were talking about the circle. I never made that into anything harmful. I tried to maybe teach the weather, what was the weather today, and how did that happen, and how do you find the date on the calendar, starting the day off. But I never made the kids spill their guts because I knew what it was about. And journal writing, I never did that. I always tried to give them a subject to write about and taught them the actual beginning, middle, and end of how to do writing. In fact, I was the only teacher that had writing good enough from first graders to put up on the wall, and I got marked a U for that on my evaluation because she picked out a child at the end who maybe only produced a good paper every 3 weeks, and it hadn't been changed, and some of the others had, and she found that to criticize me. And after being a top teacher for 33 years, my last evaluation was all U's. And so you know what happens when you don't go along with these people. They target you. So I have been Delphied to death. And because I knew about it and had read about it, the other teachers didn't know what it was about. And they used to say to me, somehow they keep asking us for our input, but it seems like the answer and the solution, are all predetermined. And I said, well, that's because they are. I remember one time I said, I know what's coming around Christmas time, how much you want to bet? And I was only half kidding. I said, how much you want to bet the principal's going to call us down for a short meeting, and he's going to tell us we can't celebrate Christmas, but we should worship the winter solstice. So one day, the intercom come down to the music room just for 5 minutes after the kids leave, puts a chair in the middle of the room and says, we have to start thinking about not celebrating Christmas in school. We'll have to, it's okay if you celebrate the winter solstice, but not Christmas. And then those of us who were, going to be rebels, I still put up greenery. It was nothing religious ever, just, wreaths or something to decorate the room, because the kids would say, where are the Christmas decorations? And I had to fill out a form explaining what everything was. So I said, two can play this game. I wrote down, these green trees and wreaths are not to be construed as Christmas decorations because they're not. So I just turned it right around on them. So there you go. But anyway, like I said, chain gangs where one teacher, we were all put into teams, and that way, if one person didn't do the right thing. But I could go on and on as people are speaking. It's jogging my memory, and I'm thinking of all the things that I was asked to do. I did, at one time, our custodian was a veteran, and I asked him why the UN flag was flying. I said, please take that down. I think I gave him a 15-minute little speech about the UN controlling us through the federal government, and that's also complicated. You can't really educate someone on that. But he got it, and he took that UN flag down. And, some people may have thought I was a kook, but I know I was right, because I am only in politics today and trying to change things, because I saw this happening in the schools and I knew there was something wrong. And Sam jogged my memory when he talked about kids constructing their own reading. It didn't have to be what was on the page, but they're supposed to construct their own learning. That's constructivism. You're supposed to put them in the corner, let them read a book. Yeah, you let them pick their books to apply what they've learned, but this was the whole curriculum. Imagine trying to keep track and then grade 25 first graders on their reading progress when you couldn't, they were all reading different books. One day, one of the consultants came in, and she put the kids in a row, and she said to the kids, okay, go ahead and read out loud. Well, they all had a different book. They all looked at me like, even they thought she was crazy, because we're not supposed to let them, you're not supposed to hear them read. Well, how do you know if they can? Yeah. So there were a lot of things that didn't make sense. I had just about had it at the end, but I have not stopped talking about it, and that's the thing. I will not stop talking about it. And I have a printout here that has some URLs on it. If you'd like to find out about the International Baccalaureate, that's a whole other story. It's ibo.org. And Sam talked about jargon. There's a wonderful website called illinoisloop.org. It has all the jargon, all the methodologies, and all of the language that is used to confuse parents that sometimes, well, usually means quite the opposite of what it's supposed to. And if you go to the jargon page, it has all that information on it. And I often refer to it when I tell someone why something is bad, because he explains, well, this is what it really means. And it's a wonderful one. And then the parents of the Merrimack Valley School District asked for this website to be put up, and it dissects the International Baccalaureate. It tells you, what their mission is, and the material comes right from their website. Their mission, what the requirements are, and the examples, and you'll see that little primary years program exhibition. This is mvsd-ib.org. On that website, the parents of Merrimack Valley School District were upset because, unbeknownst to them, in the quiet way they do things, the whole school district is going to be turned over to the UN IB program. They want to be a world school. And the objection to that, for money-wise, is we don't want our tax dollars going to Geneva, Switzerland, being under Geneva's Swiss law. If you have a problem, can you imagine having to go to the Swiss court to solve a problem with your school? So that's one of the big things, in addition to the fact that everything the kids learn has to be tainted with this UNESCO worldview. And you'll see, if you look at that little video of the children's exhibition, they make wonderful little reporters, but each table is just, it's reports. They're reading. It's not like my first graders did things with minerals. We actually had things on the table. We did things with butterflies that we hatched them. Science, projects where they actually got their hands dirty and did the experiments. This was all little reporting, very professional, and it was all promoting propaganda. So, if you want to call that having a tinfoil hat, not liking that, I'm sorry. Children should be able to learn devoid of political agendas. And as I said, the bias is heavy. It always has been since 1970, but now it's concentrated with this program, and they're trying to influence all the schools with it. That's it.